Hello and welcome back to Israel with Aline. Today we are going to talk about the Book of Giants, a mysterious apocryphal book over 2,000 years old that reveals to us the origin of the giants on earth, how they lived, and also what end they met. Let's get to know this fascinating book found in the desert in depth. So, if you are ready, let's get started. Our story begins in 1947, when shepherds in the Judean desert enter a cave and find scrolls, the first Dead Sea Scrolls. And in the following years, more than 900 scrolls were found, all about 2,000 years old. And among these scrolls is the oldest Hebrew Bible ever found, and also several apocryphal books, that is, books that are not part of the Bible. They tell us about prophecies, about biblical stories and characters, but part of these apocryphal books were lost and forgotten, and only rediscovered thanks to the Dead Sea Scrolls. And here on the channel, we are sharing with you some of these scrolls. We have already talked here on the channel about the Book of the Son of God and the Book of Melchizedek. I will leave a link up here for those who want to watch it later as well. But today we are going to talk about the most explosive and controversial manuscript of all, the Book of Giants. This book, found in 1948, is approximately 2,300 years old and is written in Aramaic. It is an antediluvian book, that is, it tells us about the time before the flood. The book tells us about the giants and their fathers, called Watchers. But before we delve into the book itself, let's understand who these two groups are. Genesis tells us about the Watchers, also called watchmen, sentinels, or sons of God. They were a group of angels who had relations with human women, and from these relations the giants were born. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown." The book of Enoch, which is also an apocryphal book, tells us even more about these watchers, these angels who had relations with human women. They taught their wives secrets of the heavens and also magic. And the children of these relations, the giants, brought evil and destruction to this world. So they took wives for themselves, each choosing for himself, whom they began to approach and with whom they cohabited, teaching them sorcery, incantations, and the dividing of roots and trees. And the women conceived and gave birth to giants whose stature was 30 cubits. These devoured all which the labor of men produced, and it became impossible to feed them. Then they turned against men in order to devour them, and they began to injure birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish, to eat their flesh, one after another, and to drink their blood. Then the earth reproved the unjust. Impiety was increased, fornication multiplied, and they transgressed and corrupted all their ways. And here begins the book of Giants, which tells us that sin was very great in the world, and that the giants consumed everything that the earth produced, including humans. and that the giants also had relations with animals. It tells of a truly terrible world until the giants begin to have visions in their dreams. And a giant named Mawai, son of the angel Barakel, goes to the council of giants to tell the vision he had. He saw in his dream a tablet being submerged in water, and when it came out, all the names except 3 had been erased. The next giant who had a dream sees a tree being uprooted and the roots being taken out of the earth, except for 3 parts. The giants discuss the meaning of these dreams, but they can't understand, and increasingly more giants receive visions in their dreams. They understand that something terrible is about to happen, but they can't understand what it is, since they don't know how to interpret the dreams. So the Council of Giants sends Maui to Enoch, and Enoch gives Maui tablets that he takes to the giants. But what is written on these tablets? That the day of judgment for the giants and watchers is coming, and they must repent, and announces the coming of the flood. The scribe Enoch, a copy of the second tablet that Enoch sent in Enoch's own handwriting, the notable scribe, in the name of God, the great and holy, to Shemi-Haza and all his companions, let them know that no. And the things that you did and your wives, they and their children and the wives of their children, for your licentiousness on the earth, and there was upon you. And the earth is crying out and complaining about you and the actions of your children, the evil that you did to it until Raphael arrives. Behold, destruction is coming, a great flood, and it will destroy all living beings and everything that is in the deserts and in the seas, and the meaning of the matter about you for evil. But now release the ties that bind you to evil and pray. The full text, folks, I'm also leaving here in the video description. And what will the giants and the watchers do with this terrible information they receive? We don't know, because from this point the scroll is torn, so we don't know how the text continues. But Genesis tells us the end of the story, because there is recorded the part of the flood. And see how amazing, knowing the story of the flood, we can interpret Mawai's dream with the board being submerged in water. And when it comes out, only 3 names remain. Who these names are, we don't know, but there's a good chance they are the names of Noah's sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Since after the flood, all of humanity will be descendants of them, since the flood wipes out all other families on earth. But we know that the flood is not the end of the watchers and their giant sons, because we see that they also appear in later stories of the Bible. For example, in the book of Daniel, when one of the watchers participates in one of his visions. I was seeing this in the visions of my head while I was in my bed. Behold, a watcher, a holy one, came down from heaven, crying out loudly and saying thus, cut down the tree and cut off its branches, shake its leaves, scatter its fruit. Let the animals flee from under it and the birds from its branches. But it's important to remember that the Bible speaks of at least 3 types of giants: the Nephilim, the Rephaim, and the Gibborim. Nephilim and the Book of Giants speaks only of the Nephilim, but it helps us to understand a little better the apocryphal view of the giants. And now I want you to comment below what you thought of the Book of Giants. And if you want us to continue with this series of books, Apocrypha and the Dead Sea Scrolls here on the channel. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video of the Book of Giants, and I want to wish you a good Wednesday, and we'll see you here every Wednesday and Sunday.